The AI boom is facing a little political pushback, and it's about to become a major election issue across the country come November. Welcome to the Big Money Show, everyone. I'm Jackie DeAngelis, alongside my co-hosts Lydia Hu, Dagan McDowell, Lou Bassanese, and with us for the hour, Rosecliff founder and managing partner Mike Murphy. So, what happens when the economic boom shows up in your backyard? President Trump says it's a trade-off, but he would happily take the jobs and tax revenue. Watch.
And I can say if I were the mayor of a town or the governor of a state and I had a chance to get a big plant in, an AI plant or a data center, I would absolutely want it because the jobs are enormous and the money paid, the taxes paid are just enormous. And if you don't take it, you're going to be left behind because there are plenty of places that want it. So I would say that maybe it can use a little public relations help. But if I were a governor or mayor, I would want that plant in my community, and many of them are designed in a very beautiful way. It's really very positive.
And there's a powerful case study happening right now in Loudoun County, Virginia, where residents there are reaping the benefits.
This year we'll get about $1.2 billion in local tax revenue. That is about 45% of all of our tax revenue, and it's coming from just 3% of our land. So obviously, from a financial return on investment standpoint, data centers have been a win for Loudoun County.
We'll take you live to Loudoun County next hour, but not everyone agrees with the president. Constituents are demanding lawmakers pause or scrap new projects across the country. This is from Axios. Forget energy, forget chips, forget China. The most clear and present danger to AI and any AI-related economic boom is rapidly rising public opposition to U.S. data centers. Mike Murphy, what do you make of this? They're all saying not in my backyard, but they understand that we need this to power the industry. It's got to go somewhere. So as a country, we've got to figure out a way to make this work.
Yes, and it has to go somewhere, and they have to find something to protest or yell about. And right now, this is the hot button issue that they think will sway elections come November. But in this country, we need data centers. We need to be at the forefront of AI. From, they say forget China. Well, China's not forgetting us. So we can't just forget about an adversary who's 3 times larger than us on the other side of the world. So where we are right now as an economy, we're booming, and AI is the reason for it. Private markets, private companies are increasing in value. They're making AI such a big part of all of our lives, and that we're leading the entire globe in this. We need data centers for that, and data centers are, as you heard in Loudoun County, they're a positive for the people around it. Yes, you don't want to live maybe on top of one, but use common sense, find the right place in your area to put a data center, and then reap the rewards for all the people who live near there. And then, being that it's the United States, if you'd like to move and live somewhere else, you can. But the people who are building these data centers are going to be at the forefront. We need that, and it's going to continue. It's not going to stop. They'll be somewhere.
Okay, say something. Growing up in rural America, I take this very personally. And if you were talking to me, and I still lived where I was raised in a town of about 800 people, I would say to you, you're from the city, aren't you? Mm-hmm. The way that you talk to me about the farmland around this town, like you want to make money. You and your big tech cronies want to come in here and surreptitiously snap up our farm and snap up our farmland. I don't care how much money you have in that briefcase of yours.
So my response would be,
wait a minute, I'm not done, carpetbaggers. Because if you read that story that was in the Wall Street Journal about that family who was offered, $26 million for a Meta data center, for a farm that they had been putting together for 200 some years. It was a mother out of Huddleston and her daughter. Their pushback, like, oh yeah, country hicks, we smell what you're up to. Don't come in here and tell us that you know better. That you just literally said people are sitting around trying to find something to get upset about. No. But these tech companies for decades have taken advantage of regular folks in this way. They have scooped up and hoovered up our data for free and turned themselves into multi-trillion-dollar corporations, treating us
voluntary got on those platforms, though.
treating us like what? Not human beings. You couldn't even deal with us when we got locked out of our email accounts. So if you want to put your damn data center in my hometown, you better get somebody on the phone with me when my identity has been stolen. That's how people feel.
Yeah,
I'm
but
gonna
then the
jump,
data
hold on, let
center
me
can
jump
go
in the middle of this,
elsewhere.
though.
Yeah, let it go to Mexico. It's just a giant building full of computers with an HVAC system.
Why you don't care about Mexicans?
Yeah, it's okay to take their land. So hold on, we got to separate two things here. Data
I
and voluntary.
am channeling how people feel, but
I
when
get
you
it, but
say,
here's
oh, you're just looking for something to get upset about, no, these big tech goons and their political cronies have tried to get one over on us, hayseeds, rubes, rednecks, and hillbillies for decades.
Is anyone forcibly forced to accept money for their land that they would
there
never?
are some really dirty tricks going on.
I agree. Hold on. Let's separate for a
I was
second.
talking
He
about
said,
the protesters,
correct.
like the people with the signs.
Let's
Well,
separate.
the
Let's
people
separate.
who are turning down the money are the protesters.
Hold on, let's separate the fact that Mike was not saying that the local people were the ones that were just looking something to get upset about. It's the Democrats. This is the amorphous affordability now made into a tangible body, a thing, the data center. It is now has a target, a name, defined borders. But at the end of the day, those farms now that rely on John Deere's to do automated farming require cell phone towers and AI data centers. Those things are all needed. So we all have to coexist, and we have to find a place to do this. And as far as the argument about, well, you've been pilfering our data forever, no one made us get online to
Did
Facebook
you know
and
what
Instagram.
you were getting? Did you know what
When you're not paying for the
American
product,
people
you're the
were
product.
getting for offering up all of your personal information for free to have it fed into Google and Amazon's meat grinder?
Yes, because
No, you didn't.
Yes, you did, because how many people
Absolutely
have
not.
warned and said, read the terms and conditions on TikTok. You're being violated by China. And guess what? It resonated with no one because
Read my terms and conditions. The answer is no to your data center.
okay,
Can
well
I
then we'll
make
give
a
up to
point?
China because you're not a fan of
make-
China.
I am huge. My point is, I am hugely in favor of artificial intelligence. I think it's the wave of the future. But the way these big tech companies have built up animosity among the American people for literally decades, and then add in the condescending, egomaniacal moralizing of a Dario Amodei and a Sam Altman, and then they essentially refuse to go and talk to these small town individuals who don't want these data centers there. So they have a giant wall to climb, and they want somebody else to do it for them.
That's a fair point. I agree with the
All right, let me just jump in on the energy side, because we've often made the comparison that there have been communities that don't want fracking, that don't want drilling. But these have been obviously important shared issues for the nation, not just for those communities, and dangers of those things have been highlighted by certain groups, although studies that they've done have gone, sort of been endless and never come to any kind of tangible conclusion. So when I think about that, and I think about how Pennsylvania handled fracking, for example, versus how New York handled it, you see two distinct situations where one state is benefiting as a result, not just from the energy aspect of it, but also the business that it's driven there. And our energy costs here in New York are sky high, and we are not getting that benefit. So I look at data centers sort of the same way, because there's that skepticism out there about them. And I agree that there are a lot of questions that we need to have answered, and the tech companies should do that. But legislators should also work through it and say, okay, tech companies, you've agreed that you're going to put in water salinization systems, you're going to pay your own electricity bills, you're even going to bring energy infrastructure in. Let's codify that. Let's put that in writing. Let's make that a long-term promise so that communities can feel better and safer when these data centers do knock on their
You're
door?
talking about one, a messaging, which I agree with Dagan. You have to communicate. The tech companies can't just say, hey, we need this, we're going to do this without communicating. But now you're talking about actual sensible regulations, and that calls for accountability too. Why are electricity costs so high in some of these areas? Guess what? Because everyone embraced ESG and renewables, and that's driven up electricity prices. So now Americans are rightfully sensitive to further increases. But here's the good news that needs to be communicated. The latest generation of AI data centers, their cooling systems use as much water as a local Olive Garden, right? So you shouldn't be offended about a data center using up water resources, although it shows that 18% of Americans are worried about that. From the energy standpoint, you're talking about it. These companies want to come and bring the energy behind the meter. We're not impacting you in most cases, or let's have protection for ratepayers. I think those are all sensible policies that need to be fleshed out, but let's also remember, this isn't new. Do you know when the first data center was built in Loudoun County? 1997 by AOL of all companies.
And on that, we get to vote for who represents us in this country. So New York was against fracking. We decided to still live here. They're now against, you can't build a data center in New York. Fine. But some places are allowing you to build them. So we get, and what makes this country great, we get to vote for people to represent us. If we believe in no data centers, New York's a great place to live. If you believe that data centers are good, you can move somewhere else and reap the benefits from them.
It's a one-year moratorium over 40 gigawatts, I
My
think. So there's still
candidates never win,
Well,
at least here.
politically, I brought this up yesterday. The Senate GOP campaign arm sent a private memo to AI companies warning that the anti-data center messaging is working in the favor of Democrats in Ohio, and warned these big tech companies, that if John Husted, the senator there, gets defeated, if he loses and data centers get the blame, politicians across the country will take notice and they will not go near a data center. Now, that is an effort to fundraise off these companies by the Republicans, but they have a point.
But in the data centers, the companies that are building the data centers are going to regret that, because the Democrats just want to stamp out their industry and control it and regulate it until we are all behind the 8 ball and competing against China. You know, I think I have a couple of points. The conversation's gone all over the place. I think, Dagan, more to your point. So I'll just jump in right here and make a couple of points. Dagan, you were so right about communities that are just being left out of the table. Yesterday, I used the term ambushed. I did some more research about how exactly they're being ambushed. You got these big tech companies that are forcing local community leaders into non-disclosure agreements, so they can't even come forth and talk about and offer answers to the questions that people have. You know, Louisiana's Economic Development Office had 50 officials sign NDAs with Meta. Microsoft just yesterday, according to the Wall Street Journal, said that they're going to stop forcing local communities to sign NDAs because they've gotten so much blowback. So it's no wonder that there are communities out here that feel like they're left out. Now, to your point about how these communities are being treated, they're in rural areas, but they're also really smart. These are really smart people that can make decisions for themselves. And I think all they need to know is hear about the facts. You talked about Loudoun County, that's one example, but there's also Quincy, Washington, 24 data centers there. And because of them, they've been able to raise so much tax revenue that they have a new high school, a new sports complex, a hospital, a library, a police station, a fire department, 900 new jobs. Poverty rate has fallen from 30% in 2012 to 6.2% in 2024. So the facts and the data speaks for itself when you start looking at the benefits conferred upon the communities and figure out how can we develop data centers in a way that is, you know, helpful to us, rather than just big tech coming in saying, silence here, we're coming in, and you don't have a seat at the
Well, the
table.
silence is a huge problem because that also fosters the mistrust.
Being a redneck from a small farming community, I can tell you our greatest weapon is knowing a phony before he ever says his first words, and those phonies assuming that we're stupid.
Right. Never assume that people are stupid. That is a big mistake. Okay, let's switch gears for a moment. Obviously, that's a hot topic, and it's one we're going to be talking about for quite